If you, let me talk into the mic. If you have been a critical thinker for most of your life, then this podcast is for you. Actually, this isn't a podcast. It's me going live. If you've been a critical thinker for most of your life, this is not going to surprise you. This information is going to confirm for you what is happening right now. And I hope my phone can pick up this information or my voice. If you are listening on YouTube, please let me know if you can hear me, because the rain is crazy right now. Because the weather modification is crazy right now. Because there's so much action going on where I live, which is extremely rural. I live at the very top of a pyramid, what some call a mountain. And there is so much action here. There's not been one person who's come here who hasn't seen something in the sky. So, if you're on YouTube, will you please tell me if you can hear me? Because it's loud. Hello, hello, can you hear me? Because my mic is plugged into my computer. Let me know if you can hear through the rain, please. So, this is one of my favorite topics. And I've actually been quite silent about it for a while because I've been doing other things, but I absolutely love that the current conditions of the simulation that we're in is prompting me to discuss my alien encounters. So, I moved here like 6.5 years ago, and pretty much immediately I began to experience the unseen realm. I'll talk to you about the first. So, whenever I lived by the beach, it was a massive storm, like full blackout. The whole city was blacked out. The wind was crazy. Like, it's not very common here to have crazy winds. That wind that night was crazy, and it was so dark, and it was just like roaring. And it was 3 in the morning. Can y'all hear me on YouTube? Okay, thank you. So the weather was roaring, and it was 3 in the morning. And I only know this because here's what happened. I'm laying in bed, and I hear Shell get up and come into the living room, and I was like, woke up right away. I look at my dogs; they're asleep, and I'm like, what the hell? Immediately, I'm shaking because I'm nervous. Like, I know what's about to happen. I know that I'm about to meet something that's not from this reality. So I get up, I get my phone, my flashlight on my phone, I open my door and go out into a kitchen slash living room area. And my house at that time was pretty much all open, like didn't have real walls. So I'm hearing roaring, the wind's blowing, all of the whole scene, right? The scene was set for this encounter to happen. And I'm super nervous, and I hear again audibly, like in my head, not out loud, it's in my head, I hear, go and get Zuna. Zuna's my dog, and I hear, you're gonna feel better. So I go in the room and I'm like, Zuna, you gotta wake up and come out here with me. She gets up, she comes and she sits at my feet. And as soon as that happens, I do feel better because my dog's with me, you know? And a portal opens up. And mind you, this is not physically occurring. Like, I can see this thing happening in the darkness with all the wind blowing and the rain and all of that. But most of the information is coming through, like, telepathically. And so I see this portal open up. And this, like, I would say 8-foot German Shepherd looking canine being steps out into this. And he's dressed in full, like, regal military. He's in a purplish royal blue colored suit. He has his hat in his hand, and he's adorned with medals. And he tells me, I'm Jericho from the canines in the 9th dimension, and we have been carefully observing your relationship with your dog Zuna. And I'm like, okay, well, what else? And so pretty much have this conversation with him, and he's telling me the reason why I'm here is because I wanted to remind you that you and I started the Canine and Human Alliance. And then he begins to tell me about this alliance. This alliance was because when we all first got here, when we populated this enclosed environment, this ecosystem, when we populated it, whenever the 12 stellar civilizations came together and the 12 matriarchs had their miraculous conception, if you will. This is where it comes from in the Bible. The miraculous conception is a reality. It's real. It's how this whole thing started. Hello, kitty. Sorry. This entire experience started, and I didn't get to the 12. Let me begin. Let me go back. So he's telling me about this, and he's saying that he and I started this alliance, and the reason why I'm so connected to dogs and I am able to hear them and converse with them is because of this alliance. And the reason why is because when we all first got here, the canines were all wolves, and when things started getting hunted, whenever the humanoids, us, the earthlings that came here, started to eat other souls, this was because we had to then create alliances about what could be eaten and what could not. And the wolves, as spirit guides for everyone, wanted to create domesticated wolves, dogs. And the agreement was that the humans would protect the dogs as their pets, and the dogs would protect the humans in the physical world. And the information was beautiful, and I felt it. I felt that reality of it. And then, like that, the portal closed up, and I went back to sleep. The next morning, I actually immediately came to my YouTube. So I think if you were to scroll back, like to the very, very first of my YouTube, you would find me talking about this experience the day after. From that moment, I had more communication telepathically with Jericho, and I just continued to learn more and more, and my relationship with my dogs grew even stronger from that moment, and learning that they were observing my relationship with Zuna, because Zuna is the reincarnation of my other dog, Torch. And Torch was the first dog I got, like my personal dog, when I was 17. I was on the edge of taking my life, and she was gifted to me. And it gave me something to live for. And then that started my healing journey. And so when Torch left this experience, I mourned and mourned and mourned. And years after that is when Zuna showed up, a month before I moved to Costa Rica. So the message that was told to me is the dogs will always come back. They reincarnate with us, and they come back in whenever we need them. And the reason why their life isn't as long is because they take on so much of our trauma. And we realize that anyone who has a dog knows how much we put on them, and energetically they absorb it all and they transmute most of it, but it is actually why they can't stay as long as we do, because they take on so much of our trauma. And then they also need to be able to come back in a healthy body whenever we need them again. This is why the dog, there's actually a movie called A Dog's Purpose, and it is the reality of what this is. It is exactly what I'm talking about. And I remember seeing this movie, my sister showed it to me, and I was like, oh my God, that's my reality. So that was my first encounter. And then I would say after that encounter, days after that encounter, is when I first got my ascension symptoms that were brutal. I was laying in my hammock, and I heard a voice say, you're about to get what you're gonna feel like is really sick. I just got up off my hammock and I was like, what? And again, I hear, you're not sick and it's not COVID. This is your ascension. This is your reward for doing the work. And I'm like, okay. And I mean, boom, it hit me hard. I stayed next to my bed for days, just like with massive chills and not being able to eat, and like the full on super painful one. It was 7 days, and I had already heard that my healing period for most of anything would be 7 sleeps, and that came to be true. And on that 7th day I was so much better, and I was able to get out of my room. And then the next day I wanted to go. This was during lockdown, by the way. This was, the world around me was shut down, and we weren't allowed to go to the beaches. So the person I was living with, we decided to like support Airbnb and pay them to pretty much use their pool so that we could go and get in water daily, and it was hot as hell. So we go to the pool, and I'm sitting in the sun, and I look down, and my whole body looks like fish scales, and it tripped me out. I think I still have a picture of this somewhere. I mean, I've deleted a lot of stuff, but I feel like I still have this picture, and it just looked like fish scales all over my body from the sun. And I knew, I was like, I'm receiving a new, different type of downloads. Like, I'm being activated right now. So that started me on my journey with connecting to what we've been told are aliens. It's a super awful word for them, honestly. The truth is that we're sharing this entire dome, this ecosystem, with all of these stellar civilizations who are participating in the human experience, the Earth University, where we're here to learn all sorts of stuff that we, in our highest form, in our formless state, when we're just energy, that we don't get to learn anymore, because emotions are for the nervous system. And whenever we're in our formless state, we don't have a nervous system, we don't have a contained body. And so why we came here to this university and decided to reincarnate over and over to learn these things and to grow our soul family and our knowings is because that essentially we are time travelers. So we've already evolved out of having a contained body. And so we wanted to come back into one, and so we created this human Earth experience. And any contact that we're having are with the other beings who have started this experience with us. So let's move into why right now these files are released at a time when the veil has thinned. The veil is so thin that we are able to communicate directly with these beings and with pretty much anything else that we want to contact with, we want to communicate with. But more than anything, the veil thinning is due to the shift. This human experience has to have a reset. The last reset, I believe, was Tartaria. And the reason why it had to get reset and we had to have the mud flood is because we reached a certain level where it wasn't challenging anymore. And that's the whole reason for being here. And so to reset and to forget everything, you have to wipe it out. But because we're in a controlled environment, meaning there's this big rock, looks like this, that they want you to believe is a rotating sphere. It's not. Sorry, my nose is very itchy. It's not that. It is a rock. Here's the center, the core of it, and this is where the control station is. It's down in this, under the water. And so above, on top of the rock, is a dome. We're in an enclosed environment. Have you seen, it's very old, a dome. It was about these two guys who get stuck in a dome, and it's essentially like this. It's like the Truman Show. The Truman Show, you know, that part where he's walking down the street and that light drops out and it says something like Sirius B on it. That's the stars up there. They're all placed there, not as lights that are going to drop out, but it is an enclosed system. And yes, all of these beings are observing this. However, we are the experiment, the humans are. because we have a nervous system. We're trying to learn what it feels like to operate a nervous system with all of the discomfort that comes with being in a human body. And because we came here through miraculous conception, through the 12 stellar civilizations, the matriarchs of those, and these women look at all different ways. They created the first humans, and the first humans started to populate this experience. And then each civilization has their own traits and characteristics that they had with them whenever they first were in their less elevated state. These traits and characteristics start to show up. For instance, the reptilians have their traits and characteristics of being super greedy and extremely intelligent and money driven, and all of the things that are happening with the elites. That is a reptilian characteristic. So why is that the most prevalent being that people talk about, those in the grays, is because the reptilians have created their fame based on the greatest collective shadow. And this collective shadow is essentially what they came here for, to be a part of this experiment. Sorry, my nose is so itchy. Maybe it's because I'm talking about all of this. So the reason why I wanted to come on here today and discuss this is because in my deep meditation about why these files have been re-released, this all started coming out in 2012. And the reason why it came out in 2012 is because that's whenever the old world really ended. There was a time clock, and that was it. And every part of the civilization, the stellar civilizations, each group, they knew that that was their time. And they had the ability to do whatever they needed to do in this human experience before the reset happened. So 2012 was that. Everything we're seeing now and everything that's being shown is the old world documentary. It's no longer existing. It's not those things that we're being told about and that we're seeing, they're not happening anymore. Golly. Give me a minute. It's super itchy. So let's circle back around to why it is that the files are happening right here digitally, because people are so obsessed with film. And I'm going to tell you how this information came to me was because I also am in a human body experiencing the human reality and what that feels like. And the easiest thing for us is to get distracted into other people's lives. It's such a human thing to do, you know? And to get distracted on what's going on digitally, because it's just constant information flowing. Even though I've known all about this for so long, there's still stuff that pops up that I'm like, oh, I'm going to just get in this. And then you begin getting more and more and more of that, because the algorithm is harvesting our energy. Every time you're part of an algorithm, the best thing that they can do to take your energy is to keep you on that topic. And so whatever you're believing in that moment, wherever your energy is going, that's what you're going to get more of, so that you can stay in the harvesting clock, the tick-tock clock. So I recognized this and I was like, okay, it's raining like a motherfucker. It's nonstop, but whenever the sun comes out here is whenever I hear the hovercraft. Whenever the hovercraft has been seen, and then whenever the rain is not happening and it's dark, I hear what sounds like large airplanes going over us, which is not happening. There are no airplanes anywhere near us. There is no fly zone. There nothing happens where I am. I mean, when I say I am rural, it is way far out there. There's absolutely no reason for planes to be flying across. But what it sounds like in the dark and with a super cloudy sky is they're right above me circling. And it's loud. I can feel my bed move sometimes. So this is very unique and something to look at. And then I thought, oh, okay, well, 40 of the 52 states in the U.S. were completely covered in snow and that was like February, early February, that was then. This is very, very rare. Why is that there? And that's there because if you can keep the weather low, then you can't see what is above it. And yes, these spacecrafts and these encounters can occur below that, but most often they're up here because of how they come into this contact. They come in they're here all the time because we're in a multidimensional experience. They go into the water, and this inside the water is where they recharge. Also, this information came to me years ago whenever I was meditating on these encounters that I was having. Honestly, what is going on? So let's move into the other encounter that I had. This one was really fun. Again, it was right when I moved here. It was after seeing Jericho. And it was a new moon. I remember this. That was at the time when I was still participating in the moon. It's a very strong trap that most people go through whenever they're in their awakening, is believing that the moon has some type of feminine power. That is a false lie. That is such a lie that what I believe it's doing is pouring energy into the feminine, making us have a cycle every 28 days. I believe that our cycle used to be maybe once a year, but they wanted to continue to populate so that there's more slaves for the reptilian race. And because we're in an incarnation loop, so it's all part of the experience. The thing that I want to preface is there are no dark, light, right or wrong beings who are participating in this experience as humans. It's all exactly the way we wanted it to be because it's more challenging that way. And we knew that when we signed up in our oversouls, we knew, okay, whenever I go down there, I'm going to forget my power. I'm going to forget everything I've learned about emotions. I'm going to forget it all, and I'm going to experience over and over again these different challenges. And I'm going to be down there with NPCs, non-player characters. These people are strictly to take us on side quests, to interfere, if you will, to become obstacles, if you will, for our experience. So I went to the beach. It was still locked down, so I wasn't supposed to be at the beach. I remember it clear as day. I was standing at the water. My feet were in the water. And I'm in meditation, and this short, 4-foot, green-colored man appears. He's not bright green like a fake alien. He is like a bit transparent, but with a green tint. And fully clothed, his energy is very calming and sweet. I wasn't scared at all. And he says, "Hi, my name is Ulysho." And I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? And he reaches into his heart and he pulls out a diamond, and I'm watching all of this, and he sticks it into my chest, and I go, and I like was activated. And he tells me, "You need to come back here tonight after dark." And I open my eyes, and I'm like, oh my God. And so I tell my friend at the time, I just had this crazy experience with this guy named Ulysho, and he just put a diamond in my heart, and I have to come back here tonight. From that moment, all day long, I was vibrating, visibly like this. I was feeling my whole body activated. So night falls. I'm nervous because I'm like, what is the message? What is he going to tell me? And I asked her to come with me. Again, like I said, it was a new moon, so it was really dark, really dark. We walk up to the water, and as we walk into the water, just glowing everything comes up my body. And I'm like, and it is so intense that I just drop to my knees and I'm bawling. It was like coming home. It felt like the most beautiful hug, love. It was so sweet and also so cosmic, like far out there. And my dog's probably barking at the aliens, and I'm not kidding. We have a huge pasture right here, and the spacecraft likes to go around this coconut tree and shoot into this open pasture where the cows are and plant itself. So they have been barking quite a bit, especially after the first landing of the hovercraft. They sat out there, and my dog barked and barked and barked. It was crazy. So I go into the water, and of course I've never experienced bioluminescence, but it was all over me, coming up my legs. So anyway, I spent that night just bawling great in gratitude that I felt cared for. I felt like that experience in Ulysses coming to me and all of that was an activation for me. So I went home, and I was like, I've got to figure out what this diamond heart is. There was an account I had saved, or a website I had saved. It was called the Ascension Glossaries. And so I went to the Ascension Glossary and I typed in Diamond Heart, and all of this information came up about the Diamond Heart, who are part of the Trinity that created the human experience, this containment of Earth that we're in, this rock that we're on, that is a complete, contained, designed, controlled ecosystem. No matter what, even if you feel like the weather modification is new, we are in a controlled environment. This is an experiment on humans. This is an experiment on the nervous system. This controlled environment means that the weather is constantly being manipulated, the waters are constantly manipulated. Maybe the moon is controlling the waters, but why would it control the waters, and why would the moon be placed in the sky whenever it used to be dark? Darkness used to be at night, and that nighttime is whenever we would have ceremonies where we'd go inside and we would be with our tribe. But more importantly, we would do our introspection. Whenever the moon got placed in the sky, all of this stopped. The moon was the false light in the sky, and then they would tell us that the moon affects the tides. Well, that all of those stories can be manipulated and created for us to look outside of ourselves for light, look outside of ourselves constantly. That is the message. And then when that happened, that's whenever a collective shadow started to grow. I believe when that happened is when the collective internal shadow started to grow, which means in this simulation, we started projecting that outward, which is what created the darkness that we're seeing right now. Everything that we see on the big screen, the simulation that comes in front of us, is the collective energy of the humans who are here participating and being the experiment. We are not like lab rats. We chose to be part of this experiment. We wanted to know what it feels like to have a contained environment where our energy is stored. What does that feel like? Because in our oversoul, in our highest form, we are formless. Our energy is fluid. We can do and go as we want. This is how we travel in multi-dimensions. So inside this contained environment, because for dimensions to operate, all they need is a sort of contained environment, a building, if you will. Shopping malls, airports, your home, anything like that is a hub for multi-dimensions. And inside of a hub is whenever you experience the many different opportunities that we're living in. I don't know how else to say that. So let's go back to Ulysses. After Ulysses, I didn't have major ascension symptoms, but what I did have is huge, massive emotional breakdowns. So from a childhood that was extremely traumatic, extremely traumatic from day one, lots of sexual abuse, physical, emotional, every type of abuse you can imagine. I don't remember what I was saying about that. So I had hardened my heart. My heart was protecting itself from feeling all of those things. And what I learned as a child was the best way for me to not feel all of that pain was to just cut out those emotions. So I was 37 when this was occurring, when these contacts started, these certain ones. And that diamond heart activation opened me back up so I could feel. And what happened from there is that day, we went back to the pool. And at this time, I didn't have a vehicle. I rode my bike everywhere around the area. And I was on my bike and I see these kids and I immediately start crying, like young kids, which that's not my style. At that point, I was so hardened from all of the trauma that I was completely detached from feeling the energy of children because I knew that their purity would activate something within me. So what I did instead is I just put off any thought of even having children. I never wanted to be a mother because in my mind, I was afraid that I was going to pass on to them what I had experienced. And for me, that was absolute hell. So in that moment, I felt complete softness for these children, and I bawled and I bawled and I cried. I saw another child. I cried. Everything was breaking me open from this diamond heart activation. And I've always been a very gifted human. I've experienced a lot of things, many things. When I was younger, it was like ghosts and spirits and energies. They all came to me. This was normal. So to experience what we have been told are aliens, which is just our tribes, our cosmic tribes, this wasn't unusual for me because I've always been open to it. So then, after Eula's show, so first it was Jericho. Jericho told me about my connection with the canine beings and that they were watching my relationship with Zuna. Observing because everybody's experimenting, right? Everybody's watching to know what it feels like. When I say everybody, all of these 12 stellar civilizations are observing all of us. Right now, we are being watched, not because they want to be, they're trying to get into our business, but they're trying to learn more of who we were when we first became a physical body. Because in our highest state, we're formless. This is our soul. Our soul is formless. This is why we can travel through different dimensions in different states. Whenever this body is resting, we go into dream state. That's another dimension. So I have these breakdowns. I have these breakthroughs. I start going to the beach again because the ban was lifted, and I go to the beach. I remember it was like my first day allowed to be back. I was going anyway, but anyway. So my dog and I go to the beach. We're running on the beach. I set up my camera because I'm gonna do, some content. And I run to the sea from the sand. And as soon as I get there is oh no, wait, sorry. Let me go back. So we're allowed to go to the beach. So I go to the beach with Zuna, and we're at the beach, and I'm throwing the frisbee with her. And her hair stands up on her back, and she's just looking up, and she's barking at air, barking at the tree. And I immediately feel it, like in my gut, like something's here with us that I can't see. And she's done. She's like, get me off the beach. So we go home, and on my bike ride home, she's looking behind her, I'm looking behind me, and I'm like, they're with us. I get to my house. The person that I was living with, we were living like on top of each other. I was in an apartment and she had the house above. I go right to her and I'm like, listen, this is what just happened. And luckily, what I loved about that relationship is we were able to tap in for each other really well. We were both tapped in and we were able to see into each other's reality. So she was like, listen, I see them. They're small beings and their skin is really dark and they look like the skin of a stingray. And I'm like, okay. And when we get to the house, there's 4 other dogs there, and they are all barking into the trees the same way that Zuna was, like up in the sky, tree-ish line, and they're barking, 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 and I'm like, okay, they're here. So that goes, I want to say, I mean, I can't remember exactly, but it was the day after, something like that. I go to the beach, I set up my phone, run to the water, boom, there's a fucking stingray. And it is beached looking at me, and I'm like, what the fuck? I haven't seen a stingray here. That was the only time in 6.5 years I've seen a stingray here in the Caribbean. I walk up to it, and I'm like, oh shit, I have to save this thing. I used to have this whole memory on my phone because I was recording, and I grab a stick and I push it out, and it swims, comes right back, and it just stops and it stares at me. Have you ever seen a stingray? They have like a mouth, eyes, and it's looking up at me, and I'm just like, okay, like, thanks for confirming that, like, y'all are watching me. Trip, that was a trip. So all of these encounters and experiences are elevating me. And I believe the reason why this elevates us whenever we have these encounters and we start ascending is because we are connecting to a reality that we have been told doesn't exist, or that we're crazy, or it's not real, whatever it is. Right? We have been told that there's something so fucked up about aliens, but whenever we are connecting to that source, to that energy, their energy, which is the formless, they can take form immediately. Our frequency raises because we have to be in a heightened frequency to be able to even see that. So the progress has just gone and gone and gone since me experiencing this. So that was 1, 2, 3 experiences. It's loud. So those were all of the experiences at the ocean. I moved up here to the farm. Before I even moved up here, I came in, we would come and stay sometimes, and we'd work on the farm to get it ready for us to be livable. And we were all staying at one house because some of the houses were just in really bad shape. The hell? So we're on the porch of the house, and it's at night, and we hear what sounds like a giant in the jungle right here. It's like boom, boom, boom. My dogs go to the end of the porch and are staring in the direction that we can hear it, which is the jungle. Most of the jungle's out here because over here we have a pasture and then jungle. So we have the houses, just a small pasture, and then jungle. Lots and lots of heavy, dense jungle. And we're hearing this toof, toof. And the dogs are watching it, hair standing up, and we're frozen. Fuck, I'm not going anywhere. I don't know what this is, but it's tripping me out. So from that moment, I knew I have to begin connecting with the spirits of this jungle because they're pissed. I immediately felt like they're not happy because the people who lived here, so the people who built this, magical humans, we are very connected. They left, and for 4 years, they left it in the hands of people who were supposed to be caretaking it. What they were doing was taking. They were not harvesting any of the fruit. When we got here, everything was dead. The fruit was just piled up on the ground. The coconuts, where you get water, coconut water, piled, right? They had never taken care of this land. They were just abusing it. And so everything was dead and ugly. And when we got here and started loving on it and caring for it and cleaning it up, the spirits came alive. And they came alive like loud alive. I'll tell you a crazy, trippy ass story is, so we had been here, living here for just maybe a month or two. No, maybe a month. And there was a guy that was here that I invited up here. In my old patterns, I used to feel like I need support. And this person convinced me that they would be supporting me up here. And he had a dog. And come to find out, he was not aligned with the energy whatsoever. So him and his dog and a couple of the workers were out in the jungle And on their way into the jungle to do whatever they were doing, they were chopping with a machete. And the machete, the dog ran, and the machete chopped the dog's back. The dog refused to be carried and walked all the way down. It probably took 15 minutes to walk to the truck, and we had to rush him to the vet to be put back together. And that was really fucking intense for me. And I asked the spirits, like, what was that about? Boom, immediately was, this person does not belong here. And if you do not get them out of here, because they are hurting this land, if you do not get them out of here, more things like this are going to happen. And I was like, okay. And it was maybe a day or two after that, we all did a really big mushroom journey under this tree. And as soon as I sat down at that tree, the tree started telling me, and the mushrooms started telling me, he's got to go. He needs to go immediately. This is not a place for him, and he's really fucking up the vibe. And I was like, okay. And when I finished that ceremony, I got up, went straight to him and said, like, this is it, you gotta go. And the confirmation was clear, because in that moment he fucking lost it and, you know, made a big deal. And I was like, well, thank you for confirming that the spirits were not lying, and I knew what I knew, so you gotta go. And from that moment, everything changed, because one thing I learned is that he was allowing the people who were working here, which was common for them, they're not to blame for it, because nobody had morally discussed with them. He was able to speak Spanish and English pretty fluently. Nobody had morally discussed with these people who were from around here. This was normal for them. They were going into the jungle, and they were taking honey from trees. They were disturbing the natural flow of energy inside this jungle here, where the spirits live for this land. And they were taking honey and disrupting that, and we don't mess with that. I think any conscious person knows you do not fuck with bees, and you don't mess with their rhythm and what they're doing, because it's very powerful. So all of this comes to light, and I'm like, you gotta leave. And then as soon as he was gone and I cleared out the space, everything really lifted and harmony returned. But it was rough. That was intense. There was a time when Corey was in the jungle with some of the guys, and I think it was another like bee situation. They were cutting down trees, and one of the trees that got cut down, dead trees, you cut them down, you know, clean up spaces, had bees in it, and it dropped to the ground. And so they started eating the honey, and they were drunk off this honey because it was so strong. And in that moment, a huge limb came off a tree, boom, right in the middle of them, and was like, get out of here, or it's gonna get bad. There's been times when Corey's been in the jungle and something has been throwing rocks at him, and the message is like, did you ask to come in here? Did you make any offerings? The spirits are serious about this. And when we start understanding and accepting, like, this is not our world. We're sharing it with so much. We're sharing it with so many other beings and so many other spirits. We are spirit. Our soul is energy, which is spirit. And when we're sharing it with other things and we come into their home and disrupt it, shit happens. Bad shit happens. So we had to get really serious about making offerings to the jungle. We have locations where you enter, you knock, you give them some tobacco, you give them some fruit, you give them some flowers, whatever it may be, and then you make your way into the jungle. And if you're not doing that, then things can happen, just like it was proven to us. So we take this very seriously, and we mindfully cohabitate with this environment. What I see happening a lot is gringos come into the jungle. Gringos are North Americans or Europeans. And they come into the jungle and they want to just disrupt this environment for their selfish needs. I want to put a house here. Okay, well, I'm going to cut down this big tree, not even considering that one tree, it is the home for limitless spirits, animals, insects, any being lives in that home. And when you cut that down, that's your karma. So when we go into the jungle and we get wood from this jungle, which is exactly what we should be doing because it provides us our homes and whatnot, we're very mindful of that. And we work with them. So I feel like aliens, whatever the beings that are sharing this experience with us, it's the same as the spirits. It's all connected. We're all connected, and the humans are the ones who are here needing to remember. The whole reason why we're here is to remember. We came here with amnesia. After 2012, if you've had a child after 2012, if you are born after 2012, you do not have the same amnesia. You can remember the truth of what we're doing here and where you've been and what karma you have and who we were for each other. But we have to keep that alive, and the only way to keep that alive is through purification, which means don't pump your children with a bunch of stuff, because if you're pumping your children with a bunch of stuff, then it is slowly devolving their memory. Their memory lane is getting clouded. So why is it just now that the UFOs, the hovercrafts, all of this is being seen? And that is because the veil has thinned. After 2012, the veil began thinning. The veil continues to thin the more people who are believing that there is a veil, and they are awakening their consciousness while also evolving their strands of DNA. We came here with 48 strands of DNA, and now most humans have 2. That is the de-evolution of our knowings. We can and are returning to remembering everything. That is why the contacts are happening. This is why these files are keeping you on your phone or your computer or whatever it is, because it is distracting you from remembering. Because if you are obsessed with the darkness from old Earth, you cannot see the beauty in new Earth. If you are riddled with fear, your vibration is so fucking low that you cannot even begin to see the beauty in life. And this is what we're doing here. This is why I'm even coming and I sit here and I talk to y'all, is because my entire purpose is to support and guide to remembrance. I was also worshiping this information in 2020 when it came out. I orbited it for 6 straight months, just blasting all of the information I had been holding inside. And I finally had a platform that was listening to me instead of calling me, well, people still called me crazy. People are still calling me crazy because I have this information, because I'm connected to this unseen world. And the more I share, and the more I believe, and the more I connect to it, the more alive it is, and the more my DNA remembers that I'm safe to remember these things. The simulation we live in, it is only a physical reality based on what our belief system is. Our belief system projects outward, and each person believing their own thing connects to a collective of things. This is why the television is so huge, and why it is the greatest part of programming aside from traditional education, or the educational system. Any academia is going to drastically devolve your consciousness, because it's all lies, it's all scripted, and it's so far from the truth. But if you're getting that stuff in your head over and over and over again, then that becomes your belief system, and you have to unlock and undo all of that. Anybody have anything to say? Let's see if anyone here. Hello, people. So, what I'm doing right now is I'm on a cannabis fast, because I feel like I need to be in my most pure state. I love cannabis. It's just a beautiful plant. And super beneficial to me, because I'm like constantly up here, like way up in the dimensions, going into, it's like the switch is turned on and I can't turn it off, but whenever I smoke, it at least grounds me. But I want to be up here right now. I want to be so far up there, and I want to be connected. So I know that if I take my phone out of my hand and I'm not orbiting a scrolling app, which means I post something, and if it's getting, yesterday I posted something that has like over 50,000 views, that scrolling app is taking my energy, because all I'm doing is obsessing over, should I comment, what I'm going to comment back, and how many views I got. This is so normalized that the first thing people do is just grab their phone constantly. And I'm also guilty of this, but I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to repattern that. My repatterning for my energy, I'm no longer open for my energy to be harvested from anyone, anything, any being, any phone, anything. No, I'm not doing it. The best way for me to do that is to take my information and put it out right here. And trust that the people who are going to align with that and who are going to come from the scrolling app and actually sit here and listen to this conversation, they're also on that same journey, and this is how we connect. This is how we build community. I can not build a strong foundation of community on a scrolling app that people can't even stay for 2 seconds if there's not a hook. I'm not fucking interested in hooking anyone anymore. I'm interested in building relationship with people. Strong connection. This is why right now in 2026, and you're going to see it all the way up until 2030, but I believe 2026 and 2028, you're going to see such a huge decline in in city Airbnb stays, people traveling to cities to look at fucking buildings, whatever it is. You're going to see a huge decline in any resorts. People are hungry for connection, and the only way we build connection is through moments like this, where we can actually have some type of face-to-face connection, even if it's digitally. But people want connection. People are going to be prioritizing their family life, and instead of going somewhere like Cancun for an all-inclusive resort for 5 days, they're going to be taking 2 weeks to go to some cabin in the woods. This is how we're rebuilding our awareness, our consciousness, the village information that has been lost. Everything is about the remembering. And if you've already been through your awakening, especially if you live through 2020, through that awakening, then you're in your remembering phase. In our remembering phase is where we remember that we are powerful. Nothing in the sky, nothing in the ocean, nothing in the ethers is more powerful than us, nor can it take away our power. The remembering reminds us that we are the ultimate master of our reality. And we must begin taking ownership of that again, because we let it go for a really long time. And I believe the Great Reset is not too far away. And I love that for us, because I feel like when a Great Reset occurs, those of us who are participating in the human experiment, we get another option. Do we want to go down there again? Or maybe we want to go down there again because we cleaned it up so well. Like, I believe that me coming here and living on this secluded farm and having a baby here that's out of the system, all of the things, is creating a new reality. So if I do choose to come back, or if I have stuff left to come back and incarnate into this loop, it'll at least be in a magical space, in a conscious space. And if I come back in as my daughter's granddaughter or grandson, whatever, she'll know who I am. She'll remember who I am. And we won't have to start over. I hope that makes sense. So someone said, I had a contact a couple of years ago, but I only saw the craft right in front of my car, and then lights moving in shapes in the sky after. I wonder why they didn't make more contact than that. I believe it's the visual you get the opportunity to see. And if we get the opportunity to see that, it is an invitation. Do you want to see more? And if so, meditate with me. Meditate on if you're capable of having that contact. Because when I had my first intense contact with Jericho, by the way, today's 222. That's cool. When I had my first contact with Jericho, when I got audibly, telepathically woken up that night, I knew in that exact moment when I heard get up and come into the living room, I was like, this is it. This is the moment I have prayed for, and it's here right now, and I'm fucking scared. And that fear, if I would not have faced it, I would have missed such a huge opportunity. And it took me a minute to get out of bed. It was this super scary night. I mean, wind, blackout, nothing was working. There was no lights anywhere across the town. There was something being hidden that night. And because we live in a controlled environment, this human experiment is a controlled environment. Every single thing has a purpose and a plan behind it. I don't believe I am the center of my universe, but it is my universe. This is my creation based on my reality, based on what energy I pour out there. That's what I got back. My biggest connection for most of my life, my safe space, has been dogs. I have had a dog all growing up, and I always felt my safety was with them. And my greatest or my hardest moments, the moments that still keep me up at night sometimes, that still hurt in my heart, are not losing not my uncle transcending, not a best friend transcending. It's my dogs transcending, and that is because the connection is so strong with them. And knowing now from Jericho, when he told me that I helped create the alliance between the animals and the dogs and the humans, I get it. And I meditated so hard on that, and that's why I got that information. And there have been times when I have there's 3 rescue dogs here right now. 2 of them are BFFs, and if they are out together, they disappear into the jungle. And I believe they travel through dimensions, but sometimes they come back in really rough shape. Like Roja, Zuna came with me from Texas. Roja appeared at the first Seva that was by the water, and I brought her up here, of course. She became my dog. But that, them together, they can't go out together because they come back. Roja's come back with her face destroyed. She's always limping. She's in pain. All of this. So I don't know why I was telling you that story, actually. But anyway, I know. So there have been times when they've been gone for 48 hours, and I'm scared. I'm worried. I was. Now I'm just like, okay, they're gonna come back because that's what they do. But I would talk to Jericho, and I would say, please, all I need you to do is just tell me that they're good, and I need to calm down so that I can go to sleep. And I would get that confirmation from him. And I've talked to Ulysses about things. Once we are connected, once we're really ready, that's when the contact comes. The contact is not going to come if it's going to wreck us and our nervous system. That's not the intention. Do I believe that there is dark entities? Absolutely. I believe that there are dark and light reptilians. I believe that there are dark and light Andromedans. I believe that there are dark and light Pleiadians. Just like there are dark and light humans. But it depends on where our vibration is how much interaction we're going to get to have. And I believe that the reason why I was called, it was placed in my energetic field to make this live today, has a lot to do with what type of contact is about to come for me. I'm just going to continue to update you guys on that. Does anyone have any more questions? I'm going to take this here. Here. Hello, everybody. Hello. So if anyone if nobody has anything else to say, I am going to close this live. I've been going for an hour. And I do this, my intention is to do this every morning at 7:30 Costa Rica time. So subscribe, whatever you need to do so that you get notifications, because I would really love to have discussions. I want people to openly feel like they can communicate about these things with me, and it's always going to be something different, but it's always going to be something conscious. My intention, my goal with even sharing the information that I have is to help people navigate this really dark space that most people are in, and to remember that that's a choice. And every time you drop into that vibration, you're giving your power away to something. So, okay, ciao now for YouTube.